taken the, and I'm just providing the logistical to our facilitators, DeCasey and Ellen. Oh, so sorry, DeCasey and Ellen. Oh, DeCasey, I see your mute button is on. Oh, okay, great. It's still showing that you're here, DeCasey, but it looks like you're muted.
Oh yes, I think I had lost you if you had given me instructions to go.
Oh, no problem. All right.
All right, so everyone. So Natasha, can I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen with everyone so that we can go through this together, but I hope you have your notebooks together with you so that you can follow. I will co-facilitate this session with Ellen. From the other side is in Canada, and I'm in Kigali, and together we will co-facilitate to the team in Tanzania and to the team in Rwanda. Kenya would have joined us, but they'll have this separately another day. So this is a 2 days course, and I'll do the facilitation for day 1, and Ellen will do the facilitation for day 2. Really, it's not a facilitation per se, you through the 1 day content so that you are familiar with the process and the activities, and then later we can discuss some of the facilitation implication and the group dynamics of the session. I'm going to share my screen with you. Once in a while, I might ask a question, and one of you could respond briefly, and we can move on, just to really check that we are together. Please, Natasha, could you confirm that my screen is visible?
Yes.
Yes. And I need to make full screen, isn't it? So this course is called Compelling Vision for Change. And Compelling Vision for Change is one of the early modules for the YLP. And during the first day of learning, you will take your participants through a welcome and introduction session. You will have an icebreaker. Then you will discuss gender in the context. Then you'll take the youth leaders through a process of discovering opportunities. Then they will do pride stories. They will uncover their passions and purpose, and eventually dependable strength. I would say that really day 1 is to empower the youth leaders so that they see whether internally in their personality and interests they match community that they as you know, a bunch of courses, and you can see that there are some courses that they'll have done before they do the compelling vision for change. They'll have done the introductory to the youth leadership. They will have done gender and your local landscape. Education technology, career planning, skills assessment.
Dikezi, we're losing you a bit.
They have the compelling vision for change. The compelling vision for change belongs to the leadership opportunity of so it's really
Dikezi,
very, very early.
Dikezi, you're breaking up quite a bit right now. We can't hear you.
And you can see bubble. Thanks. So I was saying that the compelling vision for change is part of the early bundle.
Dikezi, if you can hear us, but you're breaking up. It's very difficult to hear you.
Courses.
We cannot hear you.
Dikezi, it's really challenging to hear you. You're breaking up quite a bit. Is it possible to rejoin the call and try again?
Okay, let me try.
Thank you. Hi, Dikezi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that seems to be better.
Better than before, or better to go on?
Yeah, I think right now it seems quite clear.
Okay. Ellen thinks that it's my screen sharing, so I think I could avoid the screen sharing if that could make our communication easier.
Okay.
If you have your booklets printed or open you to the pages.
Okay. And is the presentation you shared, is it on Google Slides? Could we share the link with everybody?
Yeah, let me give it to you. I'll put it on the okay, so you can just
oh, perfect. Thanks, Dikezi.
yeah. So let's see what the participants will be doing on the day one. The first day of the workshop is to explore opportunities for impact and the ways that the strengths, skills, and passions can give a unique way to our. We are looking at the challenges in the community. How can we match that with the strengths, skills, and passion as youth leaders? So that's really the focus of the first day. So on the first day, the first session will be welcoming then you introduce yourself as a facilitator, and then the workshop. The objective here is to provide an overview to the participant and mission of DOT and its programs. And in that way, we'll be doing a better orientation for the workshop. So I think some of us might be knowing the real new presentation, its mission, vision, and program objective. And in the booklet, it's provided. And it's very important that these are very well articulated in the power of youth-led innovation, that don't believe youth to create sustainable initiatives, that DOT believes that social innovation when supported by DOT youth-led movement of daring social innovators, knowledge and networks to create opportunities to transform their own communities. So this language should be very, very consistent, and this compelling vision for change, some of these things begin to manifest, and then you can present DOT visions, communities around the world shaped by daring social innovators. And then you can present to them the mission, which is to create a youth-led movement of daring social innovators who have the tools, knowledge, and networks to create opportunities and transform. So this conversation is very important so that they know who is DOT and what the program objectives are. A key part of this session, day one, is an icebreaker. And this is a very famous icebreaker at DOT. It's been there almost 5 years. Diana, you've done this in your countries, reach up and startup. Icebreaker around people identifying and connecting their passions with that of their fellows. So you're gonna carry out this icebreaker to connect for the youth leaders to connect. One thing is for you to be prepared. Some of the materials and based on a Manila paper or a flip chart on the wall. I've seen people using whiteboard, so it depends on the disposal. So the instructions are clear. Right. One thing that they are passionate about on each sticky note. Insist that they have to use as few words as possible, probably just one word, not a story about their passion. And on the back of the sticky notes, they might need that later when they're making connection. To connect those passions to the passions of a flip chart or on a Manila paper or on a whiteboard. And so you'll have a flip chart full of post-it notes posted randomly by different people. And then they'll take a pen or a marker pen and start connecting their passions with the passions of others. And so this is a very, very interesting activity. So it calls for them really to try and they will discuss their discoveries, and then they will discover connections that they have other. So the very part of this exercise, you will need to debrief it, okay? There are several questions that we have proposed for you to use when you're debriefing. You can exhaust all of them or just choose what you think you might need. But Noella or Verona, when you did come about from your participants on day one? We've done this activity before. And when you do this activity, what are some of the lessons that emerge out of the connections that people make?
Hello. Hello. On our side, some of the lesson learned that people shared was that they discovered the people they had similarity with, and also they came to discover what they can do with learning about the similarity they have. Others discovered additional passion they had but didn't they weren't aware that they were passions that they can build upon. So it was also, they shared that it was also a basis for them to start thinking on how they can collaborate based on what they have discovered in the classroom.
Maybe for the connection of passion with your youth leaders there, what are some of the learnings that come out of it, or what are some of the excitements that come out of it?
Okay. Sorry, Ndekezi, could you repeat that?
Yeah, I was saying, Veronica, you facilitate the connections activity with your participants on day one of your program, or excitements that emerge from the icebreaker.
Hi, Ndekezi. Some of them is like having the idea that they can generate different business ideas from their passion. The other thing is discovering some passions that they didn't mention in the first place from other people. Other thing is learning different things, other passions that they never thought that those are passions. Those things were passion.
Are we still on?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, but also like the excitement of them knowing that some other people share their passions, it brings them, you know, into a more connected way, and they also get to support each other, like going forward.
I like that point a lot, Diana, because it's great. It's very important that the youth who come together, they realize that there are certain passions that connect them. And from there, they might start making alignments on with their relationship as they proceed with the course. So it's really a great beginning for the program. Okay, so please, you'll check onto those debrief questions and go through them. I think it will be something nice for them. So the other section of the course is called Gender in Your Context. Now, gender in your context builds on another gender session earlier, which is called Gender and Your Local Landscape. It's an online course. The youth leaders were asked to observe gender behaviors in their local community. So during this workshop, find opportunities for leaders to have an impact in their communities. Those areas builds on the research that they had done earlier, observing the gender behaviors in their community. And so during this session, they will be taking information with connect those stories of gender in their communities to get a broader perspective. So because they had done these observations or surveys individually, this is an opportunity for them to connect with each other and broaden their observation, their perspective about gender from their community. And so there is an activity there, which is 30 minutes, and it is a pair activity. The rest of the activities, they are going to be combining their personal research with research done by others and look for patterns and differences. What did you observe in your community? What did I observe in my community? And look for differences as well. And just come to some conclusion. What do these about gender, right? So in the first activity, so you will put them in twos, either 2 women or 2 men, okay, in pairs, all right, 2 men or 2 women. And you will put them together and they're going to share their discoveries with each other. And you'll give them 10 minutes, all right, 10 minutes to discuss what they had found in their research, the research they did during the online learning. Some of these bullets bullets for them to be talking about. You can put this on a flip chart or on a slide deck. So they're going to share their big topic, what they found different or similar, and in what ways, what discoveries surprised them, what evidence gives them hope for a gender equal world. These are some of the questions they will discover in their pairs. And after that, it's to combine into a new shared story. So it was a person. Now they're going to combine their insights together. And then they will create one story from the two of them. Gender looks like. So they'll begin to be pulling out points that seems to dominate in the story and create a new, bigger story out of those points, all right? And this will become our discoveries of our local gender condition. So imagine discoveries of their local gender condition. So they came in pairs, they shared their experiences, story. And the quad activity. Okay, so they're going to find another pair of an opposite gender, and they'll have 5 minutes to share their story. After they have shared, then they'll take the next 15 minutes where they will combine. They'll share their stories. They'll look for the similarities and differences. What were they? And then they'll draw conclusions for any significant. And then they'll take 30 minutes now to take the story from the 2 different pairs into a quad, 4 people, take 30 minutes and combine their stories, their insights, and create a new story. And they're going to share their story to the entire group, all right? And as they will be sharing, they will be pulling out points that seem to dominate the story, and then create now a bigger story around those points. So in short, the gender session will begin with what individually they collected from their communities and share it into pairs and create one story. Then the pairs will meet another pair and combine their stories, similarities, and create another story. So it's really a story that is built from one individual in his community up to 4 individuals from the different communities, creating one story on discoveries of the local gender condition. Each group will have an opportunity to come up and share their combined story for the rest of the group. Of the more isolated themes, ones that found in your own research that didn't appear.
DeCasey, I don't know if you can hear us, but we're losing you again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that seems to be better.
Okay, right. So in short, the gender in your content, right?
Sorry, DeCasey, it's cutting out again.
Let me do the same thing. I'll go off and then start again.
Okay. Do you think it's the room that you're in? Is there another room that has a stronger internet connection, or it's the same everywhere?
I'm not sure what's happening because I'm using one of my most reliable internet sources.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, maybe try disconnecting and then rejoining, and we'll see if that helps again.
Are we back?
Yes, that seems to be much better.
It's much more rejuvenated.
Exactly.
Cool. Is there something that wasn't clear on gender in your context from the listeners, please?
It was clear.
Okay. James, how was it there?
Sorry, did you ask us anything?
I just wanted to check whether James is okay.
Yeah, we are with him. It's okay.
Yeah, with you is okay. Very good. So the other session in this compelling vision for change module, or rather course, is discovering opportunities for impact. And discovering opportunities for impact draws heavily from SDGs. All right. And you know that there are 7 SDGs, isn't it? How many do you have in Tanzania SDGs?
17.
There are 17, I agree. All right. So throughout this program,
Casey, did we lose you again? We're not hearing anything.
This globally. And one of the things that really informs social environmental problems in our communities is to look at the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, otherwise also known as the global goals. They are universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, ensure that people enjoy peace, prosperity, according to UNDP 2016 report. So it's usually when you are developing social innovators. Diana, I remember one time when I was facilitating SDGs in Tanzania. You're one of the facilitators with Vero, who led the SDG session activities. Just from your experience, how did the conversation around SDGs influence the young people who had class with regard to Diana, you can as well come in. You facilitated that. How did facilitation of sustainable development goals influence the young innovators that had gathered at DOT Tanzania to learn about social innovation? Am I offline?
No, I can hear you.
Noella, how does the understanding of SDGs? Oh, I see James Wataru there.
Diana wasn't through though.
Say it again, James.
Diana was not through talking.
You want me?
Hello, can we share as we wait for Diana?
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Tunamsikia? Noella, I think Diana is using the same mic.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Diana's going to speak from here.
Okay, we are having challenges with IT equipment. So like I was saying, it was a great experience like for us here on the team to learn the SDGs, and we even made a sold out of it at the end of the training. But also, most importantly, some of the youth did not know the SDGs and they got a chance to learn about them, but also the fact that we're telling them that while they think about their projects, they should align to at least one of the SDGs. They later found out that each of them at least had a project that was connected to one of the SDGs, if not 2 or 3. And it was a great opportunity for them to see that at least with what they are trying to solve in their communities, they are playing, a piece of the puzzle, to achieving the SDGs. So it was a great experience for all of us and the youth.
Right, thank you. So so in this, you'll have an activity with them. You'll divide them into take the 17 SDG goals that we all know and divide them amongst the different groups. Maybe you have 5 groups or 6 or 7. You spread the 17 goals. And then they will take 20 minutes to describe the current state of each of the assigned SDGs in their community. So if you have one of the group assigned, let's say, education, environment, they will take those on image, okay? And we have a few guiding questions. What does it look like? What does it mostly negatively affect? And so on. So that's a chance to really match some of the SDGs and their community. And then at the end, they will have 20 minutes to present their findings to the rest of the participants on their status of their communities against the SDGs. The rest will only do the listening and see what are the most pressing or relevant issues in their community from their perspective. It's very important that observation of the SDGs. After that, they will take 10 minutes reflecting individually on some of the questions that you can present on the whiteboard or on the flip chart, so that they can have individual reflection on their journal. So this reflection activity will be done individually, and we have a couple of questions that they will need to respond to. Eventually, they will need to come up with the top 3 problems that they would like to help make a change. And at the end of that activity, they will have a debrief, which again will bring in some reflective questions for them as a group. So it will be very important that you prepare the SDGs, you prepare question, right? So the next session, again, very familiar to all of us, is Pride Stories. And we're in page 13 now. So the objective of this session on Pride Stories, individual reflections on the personal impact participant would like to have. And the idea is to identify their strengths and skills they can bring to the program and their social innovation project. All right. So they will begin with an activity that require a total of 30 minutes and no initial preparation that is required. But the exercise here, each one of them record one action or experience in which they are proud to create a pride story, something in your life that you are so proud of. Then they will take their exercise books or their journals and divide it to half page lengthwise and record their story on the left side of the page, really narrating their story. And they might use pictures or sketches or both. Now, the most important is to try really to recall the story in the most vivid way. so that they are able to share. So after 20 minutes, they review the details. And now they will look at their pride stories and add some notes on the right side of the page. And we have 4 questions here that you might prepare ahead of time on a flip chart. You know, what is it about this experience that you are most proud of? Actions that you took in the story. What skills, knowledge, attitudes did you demonstrate in your actions? What does this story and all the notes tell you about your own ability? Really a self-discovery exercise through a story out of. I've always found this a very powerful session when I'm facilitating. Once they have done all that, then you carry out a debrief on how they can use their pride stories to develop a sense of their own skills and strength. And you can ask them to recall many other pride stories in their lives and really try to connect those pride stories and see what does it tell them about themselves, about their strengths and skills. All right, a very, very powerful session. To comment about pride stories from your experience facilitating DOT programs. Right, so I'll move on. After pride stories, I think you're all seeing that we have a number of reach-up sessions in this compelling vision for change. And I think the empowerment, the self-discovery is very, very important if people are going to build really sustainable social innovations. So passions and purpose session, and through these lessons, participants will identify their passion. They will reflect on the connection between their passion, purpose, and the opportunities for impact. So, as a group, by now, your participants will have discovered possible opportunities for impact in their community. At their pride stories, they have seen that there are opportunities for them to.
Sorry, Ndekezi.
Yes, Diana.
Are the opportunities for impact the ones that they'll have answered as the top 3 problems in their communities? Can you hear me? Jeez.
Are you on pride stories?
No.
Hello, Ndekezi, are you there?
Yes. Type your question. Or you can say, James, I'm paying attention. So, Ellen, if I understand this as the question, Are the opportunities for impact the same as the three problems? Thank you, Ellen. So I think the reason we look at from an opportunity point of view is for social innovators. To the community, there is a problem, but to the social innovators is an opportunity for change. That's why we always try to match the strengths, the skills and passions we have with the problems in our communities. And those problems are opportunity for social innovators to bring about change and create sustainable social enterprises. All right. So, thanks. Right, so let's go to passion and purpose. So, so in this passion and purpose is really to, as young leaders, they need to consider how their personal strengths, passions, and assets can be leveraged to address the opportunities for impact. A very strong statement. Consider how can your personal strength, passion, and asset be leveraged or be brought together to opportunities for impact. Okay. The most effective leaders have figured out their unique role in creating change by connecting their work to their passion, strengths, and assets. You know, so if you look at your passion, what you really like to do, your strengths, which is your skills and capabilities, as well as your assets, things that you have, if you can have a combination of those three, most likely you can have a sustainable impact to our community problems, because those three are really a formidable strength to you as an individual. On passion, that is what it's all about. So the first exercise will take 10 minutes. What do I love to do? They'll take a journal or an exercise book, 10 things that I love to do, and they will write them down. They don't have to be related to work, just 10 things they love to do. And then after 10 minutes, they don't have to share their responses. After 10 minutes, they'll open another page and title it Passions. And they will recall the activity on connecting passion during the icebreaker early in the morning, and they will list 3 passions that they came up with in their icebreaker. After that, they will read through their pride stories that they did and find patterns that tell them about their values, beliefs, and interests. Pride stories are a great source of finding people's passion. And then they will take the passions that they find in their pride stories to the to-do list. Okay. After that, they'll have a group brainstorming where they're going to brainstorm for all possible ways that someone could impact a community or things that they love to do or are passionate. So let's say about, maybe jogging in the morning. You know, what is it that I can do from that passion that could impact community? If I love, let's say, farming, how can I transform my love soil into an income generating activity? So this is an opportunity for really, especially for young people, a lot of time, we think that we have no assets, we have no money, we have no capital. So we can't even change ourselves, live alone the community. But this is an opportunity for really the young people to see with a lot of gifts and talents, and they can use that to generate income and impact community. The last session, they will end with a debrief on passion and purpose. And we have 2 questions for them to discuss. Very familiar session again. The test for dependable strength. I'd like 1 minute from Rwanda, 1 minute from Tanzania, as what you understand by dependable strength when working with youth leaders. What is your experience on helping young people discover their dependable strength?
Thank you. On the dependable strengths, we help young people, especially to discover, to connect their passion and their skills, and making sure that they find a marketable skill in their strengths. Yeah. Discovered that many young people, through our experience, they could take their passion and turn it into their strengths, and then find out a marketable skill, which show that they can now what they are going to do, it depends on their strengths and their passions. Yeah, that's it.
Tanzania, any comment on dependable strength?
Yes, I think dependable strength, these are the strengths that a youth or any person is possessing. Used and exercised can help someone secure a livelihood.
Great. I think this is a great way of ending day one. And it's really almost everything together. Some very important question. What might you need to know about your dependable strengths and skills? There's someone on video. Emmanuel. What you need to bring out to the youth is that youth leaders is that throughout their lives, throughout our lives, each one of us naturally develop a set of strengths that we call dependable strength. And these are the strengths that we have, repeatedly by the experience we gather, we are building into a set of dependable strengths. We depend on them to perform all kinds of activities well, and they give us a sense of satisfaction and pride. They have often become so much part of who we are that we might take them for granted. So if you think about the experience they have gathered all their lifetime, the things they've been doing, what is the set of skills that they've been using? And that's why we call them dependable, because they've been using them again and again and again and again. And sometimes they may not discover that they're really important part of their set of repertoire for developing social innovation. So it is important that they recognize their strengths and learn to make use of those strengths as they plan for their futures and figure out how they can create sustainable livelihoods for themselves, their families, and their communities. One of the best ways they can discover their dependable strength is by looking at their achievement. If you look back, just the way we did our pride stories, you look back at what you've been able to achieve, you can carefully identify some of the set of strengths that you are endowed with. And hence, this activity of dependable strength will again add into the passion, pride stories, the discoveries that they've made about themselves that can set them to start social innovations or social enterprises. Then to help them discover their dependable strengths, they'll do the dependable strength interview, which is a discussion that is intended to help one discover some of their dependable strengths. They'll do a debrief, and the debrief is basically what did they discover about themselves in the interview, what are some of their dependable strengths that they would have listed, why is it important to identify your dependable strength, and now that they discover their dependable strength, how can they use that information? Very empowering. So those set of empowerment sessions throughout day one will be preparing the youth mindset full of positive minds and thinking really charged and with a lot of abundance to develop actions that can create opportunity for themselves and for the community and for the environment. I think by the end of the day, they will be ready for day two. Ellen, do you think they are ready for day two?
Hopefully, I think so. Can you hear me okay?
Very okay.
Great. So I am going to go through day two. I did have a presentation, but it might be easiest for us to just continue following along in that workshop guide that you all have. So DeCasey set up really well. Day one, they're leaving feeling empowered. They have reflected on their passion, purpose, strengths. So they have this better sort of awareness of what they can bring to creating a social change project in their community. So day two really focuses on taking that, their reflections from day one, and now applying it to what they actually want to create. So this is the very beginning of them developing a social impact idea and eventually a kind of social innovation project that they'll be working on throughout the rest of the youth leadership program. Whether they're in the social innovation stream, the digital champion stream, the community leader stream, as you all know, they will be working on these projects. And so day two is when they're going to be getting that sort of set up. And it's their first time that they're going to be thinking about what they actually want to be working on. So the beginning of day two is really an opportunity to reflect back on day one. So the first exercise is focusing on your opportunity. The goal of this exercise is for the participants, each individually, to identify a community need. And so, like Diana pointed out, this is really useful. We're talking about opportunity for impact is a community need or a social or environmental problem. So the goal of the exercise is for each participant to identify a community need that they will commit to working on throughout the rest of the YLP. It's connected directly, this exercise is connected directly to the activities of day one, specifically that first activity, the second activity where they are discovering opportunities for impact. So they're doing a scan of the SDGs in teams. It's also connected to passion and purpose and connected to dependable strengths. So this is it's basically an individual reflection activity. They're going to spend 5 minutes sort of rereading their notes from day one. So just kind of getting grounded again in the work that they did in day one. They're going to identify the 1 to 2. So they can have 1 or 2 that they're sort of bringing forward at this point. 1 or 2 opportunities for impact. That's those community needs that they feel are most connected to the passions and purpose that they identified in the afternoon of day one. They're going to write each of those opportunities for impact, so the 1 or 2 opportunities, at the top of a piece of paper. And then they're going to list some of the strengths that they identified in day one underneath each of those opportunities. So the strengths that they feel they can use to actually address that issue. And then the sort of bulk of the time, okay, Noella can't hear me. Can everyone else hear me?
I can hear you. Ellen.
Sure, we can.
Okay, great. And she's back too. Okay, so the last part of the reflection is getting them to start thinking about why they would pursue creating change on that issue. And so the guiding question that you're going to ask is, imagine 5 years from now, you've been working on this issue for the past 5 years. You're being interviewed by a local journalist, and they ask you, why have you committed 5 years to working on this issue? What would your answer be? So really, this is trying to get them to think about how they would describe why this particular issue motivates them, why they feel passionate about it, why they would want to pursue creating change related to that issue. This is going to be useful as they actually develop their compelling vision, because it really connects to that core of, what motivates you about actually solving this problem. So that whole exercise up until that point is a personal reflection. So basically they're writing in their own journal, they're writing their responses. Throughout day 2, one of the things that you'll notice is we're starting to get the young leaders, and they started practicing this on day 1, but we're going to further develop this on day 2. We're getting them to practice presenting their ideas to others and presenting their ideas to their peers. When you're talking about your ideas for how you want to create change, this can be challenging initially. I don't know if any of you have stories from the sort of unconference work or the pre-unconference, the Impactathon work, about when the young leaders first came in and were first sharing their ideas. Was that easy for them to do, or was it difficult for them to share their ideas about their social enterprises? Anyone have a story about that? Noella, or Rwanda, was it easy or hard for them to share their ideas at first?
At first, it wasn't that easy, but they would share like one side of the story, and at the end, they will be having more perspective on what it is, like more in details on what impact they are looking for.
Great. So in my experiences, when a young leader is first talking about an issue that they really care about, or is first presenting their ideas for creating change, it can be a little bit intimidating. And so we want to ease them into sharing their, ultimately at the end of the program, they'll be, pitching their whole social enterprise. But right now, we're just easing them into sharing little bits about their ideas for creating change. So at the end of this first activity, you're going to have each person in the group present the kind of opportunity for impact that they have identified as their number 1. And they're going to share what they identified as their answer to the question that they had just reflected on. So they imagine 5 years from now, you've been working on this issue. Why have you committed 5 years to working on it? So they're going to share what their answer would be. They're going to share that with the rest of the group. So that's the first activity. So then at that point, each person in the room has identified 1 or 2 social or environmental problems that they feel passionate about working on. And they've started to think about why specifically they feel passionate about working on those issues. The next activity is called What is a Compelling Vision? And this is where you're going to actually introduce the topic for the first time of what the whole workshop is named after, which is a compelling vision for change. So the goal of this activity is to create a common understanding amongst the group of what a compelling vision for change is and why it's a useful tool for young leaders. So as the facilitator, you're going to be spending time at the beginning of this activity introducing what a compelling vision is. And so if you're on page 20 of the workshop guide, you'll see that there's a bunch of text. It starts with what is a vision, what makes a vision compelling, and why does it matter to create a compelling vision. So this text could be your script for introducing a compelling vision for change. Of course, you can also make changes to it, but if you're looking for how to introduce this topic of what a compelling vision for change is, it's all kind of written out there in a way that you could almost read out to the young leaders. So at that point, you're going to describe the compelling vision for change and the key characteristics that makes a vision compelling. And then you'll see in the guide that it says, watch videos of 3 social innovators talking about their compelling vision for change. And the video slots are empty. So the reason for that, and we discussed this on the last TOT for those of you who were there, the reason for that is that there's a preference to present 2 or 3 videos that are local examples of social innovators presenting their compelling vision. So this is really a spot that you as a team can work to identify a video or 2 or 3, if you're able to find them, of a local social innovator talking about their vision for change. If you are not able to find a video of a local social innovator presenting their vision for change, I also have some examples. And so you can email me and I can send you some videos. Oh, you emptied all your videos during day 0. That's okay. We will, sure. Okay, so I will send out some example videos. I would encourage you to identify social innovators in the community that aren't related to DOT, don't necessarily need to be related to DOT at this point, and create, it doesn't need to be a high quality video, but get them to basically talk on video about their vision for change. If you, like I said, if you don't have time to create those videos, that's okay. I will send you example videos. You can use those initially, and then as the program goes on, it'll be great for you to collect more local examples. So you're going to present 2 or 3 videos of a compelling vision that is really well done. So you want these to be really good examples of a compelling vision for change. And then as a group, after you have watched those videos together, as a group, you're going to have a discussion. So as the facilitator, you'll lead a discussion about the participants' reactions to those videos. So based on the introduction to what a compelling vision is that you just gave, you're going to ask them to identify parts of those videos that really demonstrated those characteristics. So if one characteristic is, the vision is visual, it's described in a way that people can see it, maybe you'll ask participants to point out a part of one of the videos where they were describing something in a very visual way. Okay, so you'll have a discussion about the compelling vision. You want to just ground the big picture concept of a compelling vision for change in actual examples. So that's the first part of this activity. Then, and this is where your dot videos come in. So I know some of you were creating videos from the unconference participants about their social innovations. And even if you used the videos on day 0, Tanzania, you can probably use them again, because this time the participants have a different lens that they're looking at the video with, and they're looking for something new and different in the video. So even though they've already seen it, it might be a good thing to introduce again. So this is where you take your DOT Young Leader videos. So this could come from an alumni of the program. It could come from a young innovator that you're continuing to work with. And these will be earlier stage social innovators. They might not have as well developed of a compelling vision for change. And so you're going to break the participants up into groups. They will watch the video in their group. And then the goal for them is to talk about the strengths of that person's compelling vision for change. So what they communicated very well, and then areas where they could improve it. So kind of constructive feedback. So how could they improve their compelling vision to make it even more clear, even more vivid, even more compelling? So basically they're providing constructive feedback on this video so that they start to practice how to provide constructive feedback. We're doing this because later they're going to be providing constructive feedback to one another in the room. So this is an opportunity for them to practice giving constructive feedback about a less well-developed compelling vision for change. Does that make sense to everyone? If you can just pop in the box, the chat box, if you have any questions about the 2 different types of videos. That makes sense to Rwanda. Okay, great. So there's, once they've divided up into the groups, you know, they're gonna develop that feedback, and then they will present back to the rest of the room. So, you know, this is the video that we watched. This was what we found, you know, really strong about it. These are some of the areas where we thought there could be improvement. These are some of our ideas for how it could be improved. Okay, so that is the what is a compelling vision activity. So now we're on page 22. This next activity is called Developing Your Compelling Vision for Change. So this activity is where they are going to actually create a first draft of their own compelling vision for change. And I call it a first draft because we recognize certainly that this is a fast process. They're about a day and a half into this workshop. And so that's not a lot of time. They will have more time after the workshop is done to continue to reflect on the work that they did in the workshop. And they may very well change their compelling vision quite a bit, but this is their first draft. So you can tell them that it doesn't need to be perfect. The goal is not to create, you know, something that is so perfect that they're going to go out and tell it to the whole world right away, but just to start on the process of creating their compelling vision for change. So part 1 of this activity, of this section, is the current state versus future state drawing. So basically what you're going to have the participants do here, this is an individual exercise. They will have a large piece of paper each. Ideally, it's fairly large. It doesn't have to be huge, but a reasonable size, big enough to draw 2 drawings on. They'll draw a line down the middle of the piece of paper, label one side of the paper current state and the other side of the paper future state. And so what you're encouraging them to do here is to draw what this community need that they have identified, the top one that they want to work on. They're going to draw what it looks like in their community today. So that will be open to interpretation and open to creativity from the young leaders, which is a good thing. You don't have to give too many specifics, too many details of what needs to be included in the picture. You can suggest that they include who experiences this issue. So, you know, the who, what it is. So the 5 W's, basically: who, what, when, where, why. But you're going to get them to draw what they feel it looks like today. And then on the future state side, you're going to ask them to draw what they hope this issue will look like in 5 to 10 years. So they're going to think be as hopeful as possible. You're going to ask them to think about the best possible scenario that they think is, you know, that would be able to be achieved in 5 to 10 years. And you're going to get them to draw that. So in the drawings, they should be able to show that there's a change happening in this issue, and that it's becoming better. And what you're trying to encourage them to do is think big about what change is possible. So we know that sometimes for some young leaders, it's really easy to think big and very hopefully about change and about the future and be hopeful. But for some young leaders, that's difficult to do. And so this is an activity that is encouraging them to think big. Okay, so they'll do the 2 drawings, and then you're going to debrief the exercise together. So you're going to talk about whether it's easy or hard to think about an ideal potential future without any constraints. So we're not giving them any constraints on what the future might look like. And so basically having a discussion about whether that's easy or hard to do, think that way. There's another question that asks, how significant of a change is it that you described? Do you feel as though this change is possible? And could you have thought bigger about your vision for the future? What would that have looked like? So you're going to get them to kind of revisit and say, could I actually have thought bigger about what potential change could have happened? So those are kind of your debrief questions. You might choose to also do kind of a gallery walk of the pictures that people drew. So post the pictures up on the wall, and everyone can walk around and look at the pictures of their fellow participants as a way to share the pictures out fairly quickly without taking a lot of time to have each person present the picture. So James, sorry, getting back to your question, you asked, can the young leaders pivot their compelling vision along the way? So the big sort of answer to that is yes, definitely. Just like they're pivoting their idea for a solution and their business once they have come up with an initial plan, they're pivoting that based on new information that they get. The same thing might happen with their compelling vision. But I would say that of all of the elements of a social impact idea or a social innovation project, their compelling vision is the most likely to stay somewhat the same throughout the whole course of the YLP. And the reason for that is because this is the kind of highest level purpose that they have for being in the program. This is, we're not asking them for a lot of detail about how they're going to create change and what their solution is going to look like and how they're going to deliver that solution. All of those things will definitely pivot all throughout the program. This is the very highest level that says, what are you passionate about and what do you care about in the community that you want to drive forward? The way that their compelling vision for change might change over the course of the program, or might pivot over the course of the program, is really how they describe it will definitely change. So they will get better at more clearly articulating what they hope to change. They will learn more about the current state of the social or environmental problem that they're working on. So they'll get more information about what the current problem looks like. And so that might change their vision slightly. But overall, this is probably the piece that will stay most consistent throughout the program. You can let me know if you have any follow-up questions to that. So that is part one of the Developing Your Compelling Vision for Change exercise. It's 25 minutes and it's the current state versus the future state drawing. The second part of this exercise is developing your draft compelling vision for change. So this is happening individually and it's going to take 15 minutes. This is where they're going to sit down with their exercise book or their journal and start writing what they would say their compelling vision for change is. So again, the text that's on page 23 is written in such a way that you could read that text as the introduction to this next part of the activity. So your compelling vision for change should be more than just a vision statement, which would be one sentence. It should include a description of where we are today and tell a story about where we will go in the future. Remember, you want to be specific and descriptive so someone hearing your vision knows what you're trying to achieve and why there should be a focus on the effect of the change for people. And then there's also 4 guiding questions that you should share. You can write them on a chart paper, or you could have them on if you have a PowerPoint, have them on a PowerPoint. But the 4 questions they should answer in their compelling vision. So what is the opportunity for impact you are going to pursue? Tell the story of how you first became aware of this issue and how it has impacted your life or the lives of those around you. Looking 10 years into the future, what is your vision for how you hope this issue will look? What will it take for this vision to be achieved? Why do you personally want to pursue this vision? How does this vision connect with your passions and purpose? And describe how you will use your dependable strengths towards accomplishing this vision. So those are 4 guiding questions that they can use to write out their compelling vision for change. So they're going to have 15 minutes to do this, which obviously means that, like I said at the beginning, it's not going to be perfect. They've already been reflecting on the answers to a lot of these questions throughout the rest of the day, or the previous day and a half of the workshop. So it's not the first time that they're thinking about it, but this is the first time that they're kind of compiling it together into one coherent sort of statement that is their compelling vision for change. So they wouldn't want this to be any longer than sort of a page and a half in their journal, depending on how long they or how big the pages are and how big they write, but you can give that sort of approximation that maybe it's a page in their journal. So this is the draft. Make sure that everyone is writing down their draft and not just thinking about it, because they're going to be sharing it with others and they're going to be improving it as they go. So make sure that they're writing it down. Then they'll move on to the third part of the develop your compelling vision for change, which is share your vision with others. So this is important because you can only call really a vision for change very compelling when it's shared with others. And the purpose of it is to try to persuade others that this is an important issue and that you're well positioned to work on this issue. So this is where they're going to start practicing sharing their vision with others. So for the next 30 minutes of this activity, they are going to get into pairs, so groups of 2. In the instructions, it says sort of have a partner A and a partner B. So partner A will read out their compelling vision for change. Partner B will listen. Once they are done, once partner A is done reading out their compelling vision for change, partner B will provide constructive feedback like they practiced earlier in the day. You know, what was really good about it? What were some ideas for areas that might be improved? Partner A will take notes of the feedback, make sure that they're writing it down so they don't forget, and then they will switch. So partner B will then read their compelling vision, partner A will provide feedback, so on and so forth. So once they have both shared their compelling vision and provided feedback, they're now going to find a new partner. So they're going to do this process 3 times. What I encourage here is really close timing. So having some way to give the partners notice that they have spent half their time together. So if you can ring a bell or something like that, but I would suggest timing it very closely. So partner A shares their compelling vision for 1 minute and then give them sort of ring a bell, let them know that that minute is up. Partner B provides feedback for up to 3 minutes, time that, let them know when it's up. I say this because this could go on for a very long time if you just let them talk and talk and talk. And while that's somewhat valuable, we want to get a variety of different perspectives. And the other purpose of the exercise is for the person who's sharing their vision to practice sharing it multiple times. So it's more important that they do the 3 rotations than it is to go a deep dive with only one person. So just pay attention to the timing on this one because it could get very out of control. And then after they've done those 3 rotations, they've taken notes on feedback from 3 different people. And this is an opportunity for them to just make sure that they've captured individually, that they've captured all of that feedback and start to write down, record any ideas they have about how they might want to change their vision or the way that they're articulating their vision. So they've gotten feedback about different elements. This is where they can start to come up with ideas of how they're going to incorporate that feedback. So we want to give them time to write that down while it's fresh in their mind. And then the final activity is to share their vision to the whole group. And this part is important as well, so that everyone in the room can start to, just like they did on the first day with the very first icebreaker activity, they made connections between their passion. the passions that were in the room. By presenting their compelling vision to the whole group, the group can start making connections between people who have similar compelling visions, people who are working on similar opportunities for impact, people who feel they have similar strengths or different strengths. So it's important that they share with the whole group so connections can start to be made. So I wonder at this point if there's any questions about this develop your draft compelling vision for change activity. You can write in the chat or speak up if you want. Rwanda is good. Tanzania, any questions? Okay, great. Okay, so once they have done, once they have completed that activity, you're now going to move on to your role in influencing change. So we're on page 25. So as the facilitator, you have some prep for this activity. So just make sure you make note of that. You need to prepare a story of someone who you feel has made a significant positive impact in the community. It can be someone that others will know, or it could be someone that's more personal to you. But you just want to have a story of that person that talks about who they are, what impact they had, how they had this impact. So what type of activities were they taking on that allowed them to have the impact that they had, and why you feel connected to or inspired by that person. So you're going to start this activity by sharing that story. Then you're going to ask the participants to also think about someone that they feel has made an impact in the community. They're going to answer the questions that I just read out. There's guiding questions. You'll want to write them on a piece of chart paper, or again, have them in a presentation. So each participant does this individually, identify someone they in their home, community, or globally who they feel creates a positive change, and then they're going to write down answers to those questions. Once they've reflected on that, you're going to have a discussion about, well, first of all, you'll ask 2 or 3 participants to share their stories of someone who inspires them. You won't have time to have the whole room share their stories, so you can ask for volunteers or call on someone to share their story, so 2 or 3 people max. And then you're going to have a discussion about the ways that people can influence and create change. So hopefully the stories all represent different ways that people are creating change. So in the facilitator guide, you'll see there's a chart of ways that individuals can influence or create change. So things like consumer action, corporate action, political action, raising awareness. So hopefully the stories that we're told all include some different ways of creating change. So whether it was someone who made change by engaging with policy, they were trying to make sort of political change, or maybe it was someone who was raising awareness by protesting or marching about a particular issue. Ideally, the stories will start to show that there's a lot of different ways that individuals can influence change. So you'll have a discussion as a group about the different ways that people can influence change. You will want to put this chart, again, either on a chart paper or in a presentation. And then as the next exercise as a group, you're going to look at categorizing these different ways of creating change as either direct or indirect. So direct change is personally taking direct action to influence the current situation, and indirect is taking actions that with the goal of influencing others to make changes to their behavior or the situation. So you're gonna, as a group, categorize the different ways from the first chart of creating change into either direct or indirect. So the goal of all of this is to just introduce the participants to the fact that there's different ways of creating change. As individuals, we all have different strengths and, you know, different personalities even, and we're suited to different types of ways of creating change. And so you'll categorize this, and then the participants will take 15 minutes individually to reflect on what they feel the role they will take in influencing change will be. So they've described their compelling vision. Now they're reflecting on, how am I going to make that compelling vision happen? What types of actions am I going to take to make that compelling vision happen? Again, this doesn't have to be, they don't have to pick one and stick to it for the rest of the program, but it's just starting to think about the ways that they think they will create change. And then finally, they're going to write their own story about basically the story that they told about someone else and how they were inspired by someone else creating change. They're going to write their own story. So if others were telling a story about them, what would they want them to say? And when they're writing this story, they can think into the future. So, you know, 5 years from now, if someone was sitting in this workshop and you were the inspiring person that they were telling a story about, so what would they say? Okay. So that is the final activity, the final sort of major activity for the Compelling Vision for Change workshop. The last thing that you will do on day 2 is a debrief, and you'll introduce the young leaders to how they are going to submit their compelling vision for change, because this is one of the standardized submission points, standardized assessment points. So you, again, all of this information is in the workshop guide. There's a bunch of notes right now. If you're looking at the workshop guide that's in Google Drive, there's a bunch of notes from Christine and Rob kind of going back and forth about the technical issues related to submitting. So we will update these instructions very soon to make sure that they align with the finalized instructions for how to submit your compelling vision on the learn.site.
Sorry, Ellen, how soon can this be?
Well, we can do it today. It is finalized. I want Rob to just take a look at it and make sure that it's fully aligned.
Okay, just because CDC training is next week on Monday and Tuesday.
Yes, yeah, we can make sure it gets done today or tomorrow. So that's sort of the end of going through the actual workshop itself. We wanted to have time for questions, facilitation thoughts, and then also, if you're interested, time to actually go through the submission itself, and just make sure you're familiar with what that submission looks like. But Dakazi, I wonder if you, if there's anything that you want to make sure we talk about before we go into that submission.
I think it's okay. Let's flow with the needs of the group.
Okay, so then I guess my question for the group, after going through the 2 days of the workshop, do you have any thoughts or questions about how to facilitate this, the purpose of any of the activities, or any concerns about facilitation?
Not so much from our end, though, because we'll be having a very group of youth leaders in our CVC workshop. So we really need to work a lot on the time for the activities, especially when they have to share their CVCs with the rest of the group. We really have to work on the time because of the large number.
Okay, that's a great point. So I think that there's opportunities to divide the group up, even when you're doing that final presentation to the rest of the group of their compelling vision for change. If you had to split the group into two, you could do that. And the opportunity that you could have to make sure that everyone sees the issue that others in the room are working on could be doing that gallery walk of the current and future state drawings. So people would be able to walk around, they can go more quickly, and they could walk around and see, is anyone else working on the same issue as me? Are they like describing a similar vision to me? And they'd be able to make connections in that way if you're really concerned about timing. Any other thoughts from Rwanda or Tanzania?
The submission point, have you shared on the threshold? How much is enough to say that this submission is worth moving into the next level, or this youth leader has a compelling submission for us to allow him or her to continue?
Yes, okay, let's go into that then. Okay, so the submission for the compelling vision for change, the actual submission document itself is available here. I'm just going to put it into the chat, but I know that Natasha also sent it out. So the compelling vision for change submission is a written submission. The young leaders are required to answer 5 questions. Those 5 questions are based very much on the activities that they completed during the workshop. They are very similar to the questions that they were asked in the workshop, so they should be very well prepared to answer these questions. There are a couple of them where there's some element of their response that was introduced in an online course before the Compelling Vision for Change workshop. So because this submission is for the whole unit, the leadership opportunity, it combines, it's mostly focused on the Compelling Vision for Change workshop, but there are some elements from previous online courses. But either way, anyone who has completed all of the courses should be very well prepared to submit this response, or to submit the Compelling Vision for Change. I am going to share my screen quickly, and hopefully it doesn't make me cut out. But I wanted to go through how they do that. So are you able to see my screen now? Yes. Okay, great. So when the young leader is signed in to the learning site, when they go to the Compelling Vision for Change course, when they go to the Compelling Vision for Change course, it's going to have sort of an overall description of the course. Then there's this workshop piece. So the workshop, this one gets completed by you on the back end side of the site, which Rob has, I think, provided you with an orientation to, or will be providing you with one very soon. So you, as the program administrator, actually check this off. It's not the young leader. Then they need to submit your findings. They need to complete this section here. So the first part is the submission instructions. This provides an overview of tips for how to complete their submission, as well as a copy of the submission template itself. So the tips are, review the workshop content. So it was, it's very aligned to the workshop. It's a good idea to review your notes. Review the submission rubric, which we'll go through in just a second. So your submission will be evaluated using a rubric. Keep in mind you must get a passing grade to complete the course and Unit 1. In order to move to the next part of the Youth Leadership Program, you need to receive a 70% or higher on your submission. So this submission is marked using the rubric that I'll show you in just a second, which I think you've also seen. And the young leader has to get 70% or higher on it. Every other submission that they will have throughout the rest of the Youth Leadership Program will be an 80% pass rate. We made this one a 70% pass rate because it's the first submission. They've only had 2 days. Well, I think they've had day 0 and then these 2 days in person. And so we want to recognize that they're still early in the program. So that's why we made it that slightly lower pass rate. The reason that the pass rate is 80% typically is for the overall monitoring and evaluation of the Youth Leadership Program. DOT needs to be able to report that when someone passes, they have achieved a certain level related to the competencies for that course. So I know you guys have been talking to Christine and Roy and everyone a lot about the competency framework. And so we want to be able to report that when someone passes, they've pretty well achieved the competencies that are associated with a course. And that's why the pass rate is higher than 50%. So the final tip here is, to edit their submission. And so we say this because a section of the rubric includes an evaluation of your written communication skills. This means you'll be assessed on your spelling, grammar, style, and overall clarity of your writing. Written communication skills are important, which is why they're marked. So be sure to edit your submission and use spell check before pressing submit. You can even have someone else read your submission and give you feedback. So let's go to the rubric before we go to how to submit. Yep.
I think you may need to rethink the criteria on communication in written medium.
Okay, is that because of the English?
The last criteria that you just read.
Sorry, DeKazy, what did you say?
The criteria on grammatical errors.
Is that because of the language?
Yeah, I think we should focus more on the content than on the language, because language will be a challenge all through. Because either Tanzania nor Rwanda are not English speakers. I'm not sure they'll submit in French. If they're submitting in Kiswahili or in Kinyarwanda, that might be a case, but I'm not sure how. I mean, on thoughts clear and organized, I'm okay, but let's not include anything to do with grammar.
Okay, I think so. This is a really good comment, and I think speaks generally to the fact that we all know that this is going to be the first time we're actually using a rubric to assess submissions from the young leaders in this program. And so it is definitely a work in progress. So I will take that feedback to to Emily, really, who creates the rubrics. One of the challenges is that we have, challenges and kind of opportunities. We have outlined, or you have outlined as DOT, a competency framework that does include communication as one of the skills. And that's because it is a sort of core competency that DOT believes is important to build in young leaders. And whatever language they're communicating in, I'm sure that you can agree that having, strong written communication skills, if you're sending emails, if you are posting content on a website that's promoting your project, it's important to have strong written communication skills, or to be able to at least make sure that you get your work edited by someone who has strong written communication skills, or you get feedback on your work to improve that over time. So I do see that this could be a challenge. The written communication sort of marking about grammar and spelling. I think as well that it's an important skill for young leaders to have if they're developing social innovation projects or social enterprises, and they're going to have to write materials, that it's helpful for them to have strong written communication skills, but we need to balance it. And we need to make sure that people aren't failing because they don't have strong enough written communication skills. So DeCasey has another meeting, and I'm sure others will need to leave as well. So just going quickly through this rubric, and you can all read it on the learning site as well. This is the rubric that will actually be used to evaluate the submission. So you will be reading their submissions, and then you will mark and say, did they fully consider new ideas and mention different perspectives? Did they consider new ideas and mention different perspectives, but not fully? Or did they not consider new ideas? You will mark 0 to 2 on each of these criteria. The young leaders have access to this rubric to be able to review it before they make their submission, so that they know exactly what they're going to be evaluated on. They need to get 70% or higher in order to pass the course. And so they need to know what they're getting marked on so that they can make sure to include those things clearly in their submission. But as I said at the beginning, this is a work in progress. So we're all going to have to give feedback once we actually get submissions in for this compelling vision for change. And you have started to use the rubric to evaluate those. We'll take an opportunity then to look at the rubric and see, is it appropriate for this submission? Is there anything that we need to change about it? Because say everyone fails, but you strongly believe that they have a good, compelling vision for change, and that they demonstrated during the workshop that they really should be part of the youth leadership program and they are a great fit, but they failed this submission, that isn't right. So we know that we're going to need to make adjustments and changes to this rubric, and we need to all be providing feedback and input into how this rubric is going to be refined once we have submissions in. Has everyone read the rubric? Okay, Noella, you have it. And Tanzania, have you all read the rubric?
Yes, sure, we have.
Okay, because it'll be important probably for this first submission to make sure that you also, at the end of the Compelling Vision for Change workshop, you orient the young leaders to that rubric. So maybe you show them the rubric, you actually read through the rubric with them the first time, just so they know where it is, they know to look at it again before they make their submission, and they understand that this is what they're going to be evaluated on. So just become familiar with it yourselves before you deliver it. So Dikazi, do you have some final thoughts before you have to leave? Dikazi, do you have any final thoughts?
Sorry, I was talking when I was muted. I was saying that we should leave the countries to digest, especially this final session around the decision point, the assessment, the preparation, and the decision around the outcomes of the rubric. The decision point, then we also need to consider how many people we put into the decision point, so that if we expect to have 5 at the end, we don't put 6 and we come out with 3. So we make sure that we feed into the decision point a number that will help us get the outcome that we. My sense, Diana and the team, Noel and the team, digest this and come up with whatever other questions that you have. We have not tested this, so we don't know how it will look like, but if you take it through your thought process as an organization, see something that might work or might not work as you wish, then if you communicate that, we might be able to keep improving on the process. The other thing is that just remember that this course builds on some previous courses. The beginning of other units ahead. So have that perspective in mind that something may not be covered now in this unit because it either has been covered before or it will be covered later. So also have that perspective in mind. That was my point I wanted to make.
That's great. Thanks, Dikazi. I agree. So, you know, this was a lot of information, and specifically around that rubric and the submission. Please make sure, you know, if you have feedback about it, that you're communicating it to Christine, Roy, Emily, if you're connected with her, and you can include me, you know, when it makes sense. But if it's feedback about the submission and the rubric, that will be really helpful and very important for lots of operational considerations like Dikazi was talking about. So we don't want everyone to be failing and you have no one in your YLP. So we need to make sure that it is appropriate for your needs. So maybe we can go around and just do a last comment from Tanzania first. Any final thoughts, questions? Are you feeling prepared?
We don't have any questions, and I think we're strongly confident that we will handle this with precision.
Great. I look forward to hearing. I think you're going to be the first one, so I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes. Rwanda, any final comments, questions?
We are ready to facilitate.
Great. Okay, well, that is all from me then. Natasha, did you have anything before we wrap up?
Just to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you to Casey and Ellen for your excellent facilitation, and everyone for bearing with us through some of our connection challenges. We have been recording this, so I will share via email the link to the recording in case there were things that you missed. And I'm sure we'll be, continuing the discussion in the coming days if there are things that come up as you begin to prepare.
Great. Thanks everyone from me too. And I've made note that I'm going to be sending out some example videos and also making sure that the instructions for submission are updated. I'll talk to Rob about that. But if you have any other questions about the content as you go through it and are preparing, you can always reach out to me. I think you all have my email, so please feel free.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks, Lekezi.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.